Hey everybody, Tyler with Meeple Mountain here, bringing you another board game review, this time from our friends at Plaid Hat Games. They've been kind enough to give us a copy of their new edition of Summoner Wars 2nd Edition. I'm excited to get this game to the table and show you guys how to play this tactical two-player skirmish game that I've known and loved for years. Early on, I got into the first edition of Summoner Wars in my board gaming journey and was really excited to see what Plaid Hat brought to the table with this reprint, this update, and all the new factions that they're bringing to the table. So, without further ado, let's jump in and learn how to play Summoner Wars 2nd Edition. Welcome to the world of Summoner Wars. This is a two-player strategic battle simulator where you will take on the role of a summoner, leading your unique faction to victory against your opponent by using tactics, treachery, and some well-placed trickery to maneuver your units around this grid-based board, all with the sole purpose of defeating your opponent's summoner. Every faction is a unique deck of cards that contain events, gates for summoning units, and units that you'll move around this board, all with the purpose of defeating your opponent's summoner. If your summoner ever is defeated and falls in battle, you lose the game and your opponent is victorious. You'll want to utilize smart strategy and good decision-making skills as you build your forces up on your map and attempt to tactically maneuver around the board in a chess-like fashion to defeat your opponent's summoner. The base game of Summoner Wars comes with 6 unique factions with very different and varied playstyles, to which you can really tailor to your preferences and what you enjoy most. These factions will clash in head-to-head matches where you'll attempt to pit your units and tactics against your opponent to defeat their summoner. You can also buy expansions that add additional factions to your collection, giving you even more asymmetry and replayability. What you'll find in the base game includes your large player board that gives you a very nice guide for how your turns will flow, your 6 faction decks, as well as magic tokens for residual magic that you may gain throughout the game, damage token indicators, and a pool of dice that you'll use for combat. Let's zoom in now and talk a little bit about what a faction deck contains and how a turn in the game of Summoner Wars will progress and flow. Here we have a good breakdown and example of the cards that you will find in your faction deck in Summoner Wars. Every faction deck is comprised of 30 cards containing your summoner, the lifeblood of your troop, of your faction. If you lose them, you'll lose the game. Champion units that are incredibly powerful but cost a lot of magic to summon. Gates, of which you'll start with your 10 health gate on the board, and then additional ones that you can summon to get your units out on the board. Your main units, kind of standard units if you will, or common units, these are the main essence of how you'll maneuver and play your playstyle based on your faction. And events. Events will be played at specific phases throughout the game and will do very unique and asymmetric things based on whatever faction you're playing. These will constitute kind of the pieces or components that build your strategy and how you'll try to find victory against your opponent. On your turn, you will follow the flowchart listed at the bottom of your particular side of the board, which will flow you and give you a good guide on how to play your faction and play your turns. So, first things first, let's look at a typical setup and how your turns will flow. On the back of your summoner, there is a guide that shows you the starting units, your starting gate, and where everything is placed on your side of the board. It's very helpful and easy to know exactly how to set up, and it takes maybe a minute to do. After that, you'll shuffle your deck together with the rest of your cards and put it on the left side of your playing area. Then you will begin your turn. You'll discard any active events that are in play on your side of the board, and then proceed into your play. You'll use magic that you've accumulated here, ranging from 0 to 15, to summon units. The summon cost is on the left-hand side of your units, and it ranges from 1 up to some very high numbers like 6 for this champion here. You'll spend that amount of magic, moving your marker down to correspond to how much magic you have remaining, and then you'll summon that unit orthogonally adjacent to any gate that you control. So if you have a gate out here, you can put units beside said gate to bring them into play so that they're active and ready to go. Then you will move your units. You can select up to 3 unique units on the board to move them 2 spaces each. You can't obviously select the same unit multiple times. Movement in this game is orthogonal, so you can move left, right, up, and down as you move around the board tactically to position yourself to gain the advantage over your opponents as you prepare to attack them. Next, you'll build structures. If you have any structures like gates or particular unique structures for your faction, you can always build them on the back 3 rows of your board, or you can build them on your opponent's side of the board if they're orthogonally connected to your summoner. So if my summoner had invaded my opponent's side of the board, I could put a gate there if it was orthogonally open and surrounded by my summoner. Next, you'll attack. You will attack again with up to 3 units, just like movement, and you will target opponents that you can reach. There's 2 types of attack modes traditionally in a game of Summoner Wars, which is melee and ranged. You'll look at the bottom of this symbol on your character to see how many dice that particular unit will roll, and if they're melee or ranged. Melee characters attack orthogonally adjacent structures or units, and ranged characters will attack up to 3 spaces orthogonally away as long as it's not blocked or obstructed by anything else. Once you attack, let's say we're going to attack with this carrier. We're going to look and see that he has a dice pool of 2. We'll choose our target, which would be something adjacent to us, and we'll roll our dice to see how many hits we get. You'll try to match this symbol to what you're targeting. So in this case, I'm looking for swords on my dice. When I see my swords, I tally them up, and that's how many hits I'll inflict on the opponent. If I defeat that opponent by dealing enough hits to equal or go beyond the health of that opponent unit, I will gain 1 magic as a reward. Otherwise, I'll track the damage that they've sustained so far with the cardboard hit markers that are included in the game. So for instance, I could track a damage here by placing this on the character. Those will not go away as their health will continue to decline unless you play an event or have a specific unit that will heal damage from allied units. So that's the attack action. Magic, you can discard cards from your hand to gain a magic. So if I wanted to discard, say, this event from my hand, I can move it into my discard pile, and I will gain a magic point for every card that I do this with. Now, it's important to note that in a game of Summoner Wars, you do not reshuffle your discard pile. If you run out of cards in your draw deck, you are just out of cards. So you have a max of 30 cards to play with throughout a round of Summoner Wars. And if you run out of cards, that was just too bad for you. So you want to always make sure you're threading that needle of strategy of when do I want to discard cards that are not advantageous to me to get the magic that I need to be able to summon units in the future without overspending, overextending myself so that I do not have enough cards in the deck to sustain and outlast my opponent. There's a lot of fun strategy that comes into effect in the magic section of the game. Finally, you'll draw back up to a hand of 5 cards so that you're ready to begin your next turn. Once you conclude this, play will go to your opponent, and they will follow this exact same flowchart back and forth until one opponent's summoner is defeated. And that, in a nutshell, is everything you need to know to jump in and enjoy a game of Summoner Wars 2nd Edition. I hope this content was helpful in kind of informing you about what to expect in the box and how the game plays so that you can jump in and have a great time with this 2-player skirmish game. It fills a really great niche. Again, it's near and dear to my heart because it was an early game that I got in my collection with a lot of replayability and a lot of accessibility. It's very open to new gamers. There's, again, a very easy way to learn and play this game. You just follow the guide on your side of the board. But there is a lot of depth and strategy that presents itself as well as you get into the strategies of your unique factions and how you want to play the game. Rulebook for this game is well put together. It's nice, short, concise, but it does have good illustrations of how combat and summoning and everything works. There's no questions. I did not have any questions as I looked through this that I was like, oh, the rulebook doesn't lay this out well. It's all great. The 6 factions that come in the base box are great. They're very unique, lend themselves to some unique playstyle, so there's a lot of fun and replayability to be discovered on this game with a price tag that is certainly not going to break the budget, which is great. So if you're looking for that kind of niche 2-player game, I think Summoner Wars is a great option. Now, what were my personal takeaways? What did I think about it? Well, on the good side, love the art. I think the art refresh from 1st edition to 2nd, awesome. It just pops. It's fun. It's engaging. It looks a little bit different, warmer, a little more anime-esque, and I really like it. I think it looks great. The factions kind of ooze that theme that really plays into their abilities and you know, events and cards that are present in that deck. And so I really like that. They did a super great job with that refresh. Again, love the turn guide here. I think that's awesome. The one negative statement that I would have to make is more of a feeling, an opinion that it left me with as I opened the box, but I think it's worth sharing. 1st edition Summoner Wars, it had a nice resin print inlay in it that you could put your decks into. It had room for the 6 base, and I think at least 3 more, maybe 4 more, 5 more, so it encouraged you to collect more decks, which I thought was smart marketing. When you had this, it traveled well. You could open it up, and people could easily see, like, oh, these are the decks of cards, this is where they go, this is the one maybe I want to play. All of that was good. When I opened this particular box, though, it was just open. It was just a big old bottom. with nothing really in it. The cards for the factions came in one big set, and as I opened them and I sorted them, I had no way to store these cards. There was no storage solution presented in the base box. It was just like the designer was telling me, hey, figure it out. I don't care how you store them. And that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Now, mountain out of a molehill, it's not a big deal. I could rubber band them. If you saw earlier, I had them in Ziploc bags. We all have little baggies if we're gamers. It's an easy fix. The issue was not the fix, it was the mindset behind it. It kind of bugged me that the first edition had such a clear intentionality behind how it wanted me to store the things. It provided an option for me to put the decks in a way that was helpful, that traveled well. And then going to the second edition, there was just nothing, not even baggies presented to say, like, here's how we hope you can store the game. Now, Plaid Hat does sell these really cool deck boxes that you can buy that give you a storage solution. I think that's awesome, but that to me should always be an upgrade, a premium option for you as a gamer if you just want to double down because you love the title, not almost a mandate because they didn't provide you with an option. It felt a little insincere, cash grabby. I don't know. I didn't like it, and so it's just worth mentioning. But outside of that, the game is awesome. It is everything that I remember and love from the initial edition, with some great updates, some new factions that are really cool, and new content that's constantly being churned out. So I'm very excited about this. I hope you guys are too. I'm excited to see the new stuff that's coming out, and this is one that I will definitely keep in my collection for years to come, and certainly look forward to playing again, just like the good old days. I hope this review was helpful for you and informative, and if you enjoy the stuff that Meeple Mountain is making, I encourage you to hit the bell, subscribe, follow us. We're always putting out new content, and those follows mean a lot and let us know that you're enjoying the content that we're making. I want to thank you again for checking out this video, and as always, wish you happy gaming.
Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out these links to find some other games you might want to bring to the table. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.